Hey guys, got a special show for you today. We're going to talk about how millionaires build wealth.
That's right, Brian. I am so excited to talk about this today because we have one of the most influential, impactful voices in the financial world here to share what he and his team have learned about how millionaires actually build wealth through time.
It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
This is one of those things where I think about what actually started us on our journey towards wealth building. And without a doubt, like Millionaire Next Door was a big inspiration for me in the 90s. But I feel like there has been somebody who's been filling that void for the last, really, let's say 3 decades, about the same time. And guess what? We have Dave Ramsey on here to kind of share his secrets, celebrate 30 years. We got George Camel on here as well to kind of share the insight of what younger people who are on that wealth building journey. We could not be happier to kind of share these insights today. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thanks for having us, guys. We're huge fans of you guys, so thanks for having us.
Well, first, we are happy to be in your house. It's kind of cool seeing the 2 logos up there. We were here for the influencer event last November, I believe. And here's what I think is interesting. I think a lot of people who watch our content, they will kind of compare and contrast, and I think they'd be surprised to find out we're actually friendly with each other. To the fact that we come to y'all's events and we get invited into the studio. But what the biggest thing I love is that I want this to be motivational. There's so much noise and misinformation about what wealth creation is. We felt like let's come directly to the source because y'all have been covering this for decades now.
And I think it's interesting, right? So you guys did, I believe it was the largest study of millionaires ever done, right? And so you have some really unique perspective on what makes them tick. How do they do the things that they do? And so I'm curious to hear from you guys, what are some of the mistakes when people are like starting out on their wealth building journey, when they start at the very beginning, aspiring to be a millionaire? What are some of the big mistakes that you guys see them make?
So, in that Millionaire Study, we found that 97% of millionaires believed they controlled their financial destiny, which was amazing because it starts with belief. And most people out there, a mistake they make is they don't believe it's possible for them. They've put themselves in this bucket of, well, that's for rich people. That's for people who grew up on the other side of the tracks. And what I found is I was that guy. And I thought, that's for rich people. Until I actually started doing this stuff, the Ramsey 7 baby steps that we've been teaching, and it changed everything for me. And once you stop trying to play the game of the system and stop trying to do 17 things at once, as we take calls on the Ramsey show, people call in, they're going, well, I'm trying to pay off some debt, I'm trying to invest, I'm trying to save for my kids' college, and I don't feel like I'm making traction in any of these areas. So focused intensity over time, that's what we've been teaching for 30 years now, and that is what works.
Yeah, the Millionaire Study you referred to was actually birthed from Tom Stanley. Tom's Millionaire Next Door book, I was a big fan as well, and he and I became friends while he was living. His daughter Sarah is now a friend as well, and they do wonderful research still, their organization does on this. And the big knock on the Millionaire Next Door book was the sample size was 750, which those of us that know statistics know that is actually statistically significant, meaning that the conclusions are accurate from the book, but he got trashed. You can't. That guy he didn't really study anybody. So when we set out to do it, we said, all right, not because we needed to ensure the quality of the data, but just from a PR standpoint, we're going to do 10x. We'll do 7,500. And we got carried away, and it ended up being 10,167 that we ended up actually doing the detailed, in-depth study with these millionaires and really getting into their heads, getting into their hearts, getting into their demographic, where they come from, so that you can figure out, what is duplicatable for a guy that grows up like me in Antioch, Tennessee, right? Blue-collar, white-collar, lower white-collar neighborhood, right? But starting with nothing, how do you become a millionaire? I knew I had done it twice because I was so stupid I lost it all, and then come back. But what we wanted to do is to give the hope from the data that somebody listening, somebody watching could do this. And the good news is that we found about what Tom found back in 1992. There were some nuanced differences, but not a ton. And we went further into stuff like the belief factor. He didn't really get into that believing you can matters. I mean, the old Henry Ford thing, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so that's why we get so angry about people out there, the noises in the marketplace that tell people they can't, that, all wealth is inherited. Well, that's actually statistically not true. It doesn't. So, the biggest mistakes we see people make is if they believe the game is rigged, then they go into Stupidville on some kind of get-rich-quick crap. They look for a shortcut. They look for a corner to cut. And what that does is it sets back their wealth-building journey. You get to start over,
right?
Because you screw up.
Well, I thought it was interesting. In your most recent book, you talk about building wealth the right way. But I also want to make sure that I put an exclamation point on something you just shared, Dave and George, because this is something we repeat often. Is there so much noise about wealth creation that it's worth repeating, because I actually wrote down the numbers, because I love how consistent it all works out. If you look at the Millionaire Next Door, they found 80%. Everybody's heard the 80% of millionaires are first generation. But if you look at what Sarah came back and did more research on her father's work, she found that number was from 1892. She went all the way back to 1892. That number was 84%. You guys, you just referenced your research. It was around 79%. And then we do our own wealth survey. Now, it's not your numbers. It's only a few hundred of our clients that are actually millionaires. Our number came in at 76%. Yeah. So there is without a doubt, all the people who are trying to put the mindset, and that's what y'all were just talking about was so important, don't get that out of your head, because that's what's going to keep you away from the journey of building success. I did want to I wanted to flip this upside down a little bit, because we kind of talk about wealth building in two ways. We talk about you're building wealth, but then once you get to wealth, there's a whole struggle with keeping wealth. In your most recent book, Dave, you were talking about how lottery winners, NFL players, we're two Atlanta boys originally, so when you started talking about Andre Rison and so forth, it really touched a chord with us. What are some of the mistakes you see people on keeping wealth too? Because that's a mindset as well.
Well, sometimes the way they got the wealth was not slow and gradual. And if it wasn't slow and gradual, there's oftentimes, there's a higher probability that you're going to screw it up. So the people that, get a big signing bonus and go in the NFL, the people that are 21 years old and they get a record deal and they get $10 million, the people that are win the lottery, they have a higher probability of losing it.
Just based on the way they got it.
Because they didn't have to, it wasn't habits that would cause them, it wasn't habits that built the wealth, and those same habits are the habits that will cause you to keep the wealth. Instead, it was a flash in the pan, it was a one-time thing. And it's not duplicatable. It's not repeatable. The system that they use to get wealth is not repeatable statistically.
Sure.
It was a flash in the pan, it was lightning in a jar, whatever you want to call it, right? But and since it's not repeatable, then they'll go back to that well, and that'll cause them to lose it. Instead of going, but if you gradually build it in your 401k and you pay off your house and the stuff that we found, kind of boring stuff, it's not real sexy, but those steady habits of churning, grinding over a long period of time and consistency, those steady flow of habits are the same habits that cause you to keep it that allowed you to build it.
Right.
And that's what we end up finding, because they're not out chasing the stars somewhere and then fall over a cliff.
So not forgetting the thing that got them there. So a lot of times we see wealthy people, they think they have to get more complicated or more sophisticated, or they have to get into the next deal or the next difficult thing. You're saying that's not actually the key. The key is to dance with the one that brung you, to continue to do the things that you know have been tried and true through time, not get lost in, I think, George, you said, the noise of the rest of the financial world trying to convince you otherwise. Am I hearing that right?
The one thing that we do find, and I found it over all these years of just talking with people on an analog basis, not necessarily a huge number of pieces, just one-on-one like you guys are doing in your firm, is they feel Millionaire builds $2 million net worth, $3 million net worth, gradual compound interest and steady investing. They feel like they are ignorant. They feel like They didn't know the secret that somebody else knew. And they think there's some double backflip family trust limited partnership thing that they don't know about that they're supposed to. They feel inept.
Yep.
And yet they're the ones that have a higher net worth than the goober that's trying to talk them into doing something stupid. And so I tell them, look, just rest in the confidence that you're the one that got you here. And if you'll just stick with you, you're going to be okay.
I think it's interesting. You said that the tried and true habits stay the same. We've been doing this for 30 plus years now. And so I imagine a lot in the personal financial world has changed and some things that you have seen have changed. What are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen or that you've uncovered from the study that you've gone through in personal finance and the way that people make money? What are some things that maybe are different today than was the case 30, 40, 50 years ago?
Well, I mean, this magic wand we carry around in our pockets called a phone, the digital world has made everything more efficient, more convenient. There's less friction on buying things, so the consumption rate has gone way up, and the debt that goes with it. And so, it's like we're not going to get rid of credit card debt because we're ensuring that there's going to be more credit card debt with the methodologies we use to buy things. And so, it's like if everything in your life is poor nutrition, you're ensuring you're going to have a whole group of fat people. I mean, that's the whole thing. And so the speed of that and the things that have changed really in a way it's good, but something as simple as, when I started, I still balanced a paper checkbook. I checked the register.
All the audience just said, what's balancing?
And people are like,
checkbook?
what's that mean? That's like, and we had paper checks and they would come back to you in the mail and you matched them against what you thought you wrote down and scribbled when you were at Kroger and all that. And all of that now is of course, that's a bygone era. And now it's instantaneous. So you can keep your checking account reconciled from an accounting standpoint, minute by minute, instant by instant, and that's both good and bad. It's good because it's convenient, it's easy, you're going to have more accuracy. It's bad because people don't even do it. Even though it's easy, it's just that they're abandoning it, and everything's just moving at light speed. So the speed of everything has picked up.
Well, it's interesting, and even one of the things I think that's changed over the years is like young people now, back, I assume 50 years ago, when you started out in your career, you started making nothing, right? You started making peanuts, but now that we have this technology-forward world, George, have you found with like other young folks who start out in their careers and they work in these markets where they can make tons of money, they have these big incomes, are they having a hard time like doing exactly what you guys said, having those like steady habits, making those good decisions? Like, do they get blinded by what they're able to have access to so much earlier in life?
Yeah, I mean, you think about an entire generation who grew up with these devices in their pockets that are 24/7. They're looking for shortcuts. And they grew up being trained that, hey, we live in a convenience culture. You shouldn't have to wait. We can microwave it. We don't have to wait for it to cook in the oven. Yeah. And so when you have that mentality, what you find is people gravitating towards things like cryptocurrency. Why would I put money in my 401k and wait 30 years to become maybe a millionaire when I could just get the next crypto coin and become
the next year.
Super rich?
Yeah.
And then you see buy now, pay later. That's another shortcut. Why would I spend $100 of my hard-earned money when I can just put $25 down today and another $25 next month, and I can free up that money in my budget? And these companies know this. They're marketing towards these generations saying, hey, this is what freedom really looks like for you. Free up that money. Oh, and by the way, they're strapped with student loan payments. And car payments and now mortgage payments because their parents said, why don't you have a house yet? You should have a family, but you need to be driving a nicer car if you're going to, now that you have that fancy degree.
Look the way, yeah.
And so you add up all of this FOMO, all of the comparisons, all of the shortcuts, the lack of patience, the lack of contentment, thanks to social media. Now I can see what my friend Bo and Brian are doing, and I went, oh, I should be driving a nicer car. Look at what they have. Look at the house they have. And so all of this creates so much anxiety, and with 24/7 crypto on our phones now, what does that do to us? We're looking at 3 a.m. seeing what it's going up, it's going back down, the volatility, the crash. And so we just need to slow down. Proverbs 13:11 says that wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. I mean, this is timeless wisdom from the Bible that knew we were going to have this mentality thousands of years later.
Have you found that you've had success getting through to folks, or do they have to fail? Like, do they have to try the crypto thing and it not work out before like the light goes on, or are you actually saying no, we know this is true, we have the data, we've been able to back it up? What's been your experience in talking with folks again who have this like aspirational, I want to be a millionaire, I want to move in that direction?
Well, it is a hard mindset shift to make. That's one of the hardest things we do in a 7-minute phone call on the radio is try to change someone's paradigm to go, hey, you're thinking about this a completely different way. And for a lot of people, touching the hot stove is that's when they call into the show. They don't call in going, hey, I'm about to do a dumb thing. Should I do it? Most of them say, hey, I just found you guys because 2 months ago I did a bunch of dumb things. And so I wish the preventative medicine is really I think going to be so helpful as we get these newer personalities and we have our personal finance curriculum in 48% of schools and students start to get a hold of this stuff going, oh, debt is not my friend. Debt is a thief from my future. When you start getting kids to think like that, man, we could do some amazing things in our communities and with this generation.
Yeah, I think the position of the person that you're trying to influence determines whether or not they're going to accept the information. And so a person of honor, of character, spiritual and psychological maturity, they can hear it. But and that person could be 19 years old, that person could be 59 years old. I don't care. But they can be convinced by data, by experience, by a well-crafted, a good narrative of the truth, because the truth will ring in a heart like that. But if you're dealing with somebody who's, they're just out of control and they're immature, they're selfish. They're not worried. All they're worried about is how quickly something can happen. There's no maturity to delay pleasure, and I just want to get to Friday and drink my face off, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's so many other things in their life that are screwed up that you put a positive, truthful, long-term mentality narrative in front of that person, they're not going to lap it up.
Not going to pay attention.
They're not going to do it.
And that brings it right back, because I think this is such a consistent message for anybody who's actually sharing the right way to build wealth, is that so much in the current world we live in is about consumption, not building. And what we try to be, we eat our own cooking, but we also really share the numbers. And what I try to always get our audience, and I know you do the same thing because it was all in your books, it's all in your broadcasts, is that if you can essentially automate the wealth building process where you're saving monthly just consistently, it's that tortoise and hare that I know you give that example in the book as well. That is the part, but nobody wants to hear that, because the reality of doing the automatic millionaire it's setting up what you're going to do every month, and then as you get pay raises, increasing that, is that it might be 10, 12 years in the future before you actually start seeing critical mass develop. You won't, because 5 years into it, you're going to be like, especially if you're in a year like we are right now, where we're in a bear market, people are going to be like, why am I doing this? But you don't realize that that's the distraction before you get the payoff, because it's very slow until it gets really fast. Because then when people see the rest of it, after you've reached the critical mass, and then they see when you make 10% on $1 million or 10% on $2 million, now we're replacing years of what you might have been the first 10 years of your actual working life is replaced in an instant because of all the hard work you did earlier. But that's not what the young people want to see, because of this consumption society we live in, where people are trying to get in your back pocket with selling stuff. That's the thing that I love that y'all are consistent about too.
It's not just young people. It's not what the immature person wants to see. But we're running in, there's some very interesting things happening in the Zs and in some of the millennials as well. There's a segment of them, they're dumber than a rock, but there's a segment of them that are unbelievably mature beyond their years. I mean, we're getting the 19-year-old caller, and I'm like, who are you, you little nerd? It's awesome.
That's great.
It's completely got it dialed in. I mean, they know exactly it's amazing. They're very impressive, very impressive. So it's a maturity thing, and it can be spiritual, emotional maturity, whatever you want to call it, relational maturity, those kinds of things. That enters into whether you're willing to engage this process or not, and whether you're going to take a victim stance and someone else is affecting my life, or whether you're going to be destiny driven, and all of those kinds of things. That really does roll into it. I mean, David Bach talked about what you're talking about 15, 20 years ago. Automatic Millionaire, best-selling book. It's a great book. And I mean, he and I we'd end up on shows together back in the day. You know, I don't know how, that's decades ago, I guess now. But the whole idea is automate it. We used to set it up in mutual fund business 1,000 years ago, automatic draft from your checking account. I guess probably now it's just coming through the Ethernet or whatever, and it's a whole process. But that's the beauty of the 401k is, you don't think about it.
I would love to get both of y'all's take, because one of the things, this world is moving so fast now that I do feel like things are shifting a little bit. One of the things, because Dave, I've read your books. I know you do 15% of saving and investing for the future after you make it through some of those basic debt components. We've actually taken some flack because we recommend 20 to 25%. But I have fears. I mean, our government debt's at all-time highs. I worry about taxation. I worried about those. And then also, the other thing I wanted to pivot on, so it's really a two-parter, savings rate and investment rate, and then also real estate. Because real estate, forever, we've been very conservative with saying it shouldn't exceed 25% of your gross income. I mean, making sure your debt service and your mortgage so that you're not house rich, life poor. But I feel like in this inflationary world, a lot of that's been set upside down. We get a lot of comments and emails and reaching out from people who live in coastal cities, on the West Coast, the East Coast. And they're like, have y'all seen what rent is? Have you seen what more? And that's the stuff I'd love, because you've been doing this so long. I wanted to get y'all's take on some of these big changes that are going on in the world.
Yeah, the problem is that it doesn't matter what economy you're in or whether you live in LA or Abilene.
Yeah.
Math is just there. It's just a thing. And so if you spend more than you make, and whatever rationalization or intellectual justification you come up with, or whatever emotional fit you throw, I want it now, and I deserve it because I breathe air. Oh, give me a break. But, I mean, it's still math. You still bought a $2 million house, and you make $60,000 a year. You're going bankrupt, dummy. I mean, you can't go before the bankruptcy judge and go, but it's California.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't care. Foreclosure. You're done. And they don't care. And so the math still has to work. And if you trap yourself with huge payments and you justify, because inflation's bad and Biden's ruined the world and I live in New York and you don't understand and rent and you're just so dumb. No, I'm really not. If you trap yourself and you leave no margin for investing and no margin for generosity in your budget, guess what? You're going to do no generosity, and you're going to do no investing, and you're going to be a broke person. We call it house poor. And I remember I used to get I still get the same crap y'all get on that. You must have your head in the sand, boomer. You don't know what's happening out here in the real world. Those of us on
some of the same people call both of us.
Those of us on TikTok, we have life figured out. Oh, give me a break, seriously. No, I mean, we know exactly what the numbers are, but it would not be an act of love for me to tell someone I care about, my listener, to do something that's going to bring them harm, just because it's tough. Oh, I'm sorry, cry me a river. It's tough. It's always been tough, though. I mean, I can go back all over the 30 years and go, almost every year there was something stupid happening out there in the world that made it tough. But I remember the first time, though, I got hate mail from some goober in California. It's like, you're an idiot. You don't understand what it costs to live in L.A. And I'm going, no, you're an idiot. You don't understand what it costs to live in L.A. With your income, you can't afford to live there. You can't, almost impossible to be a homeowner in Orange County as a barista.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. It's a math thing, dummy. And you really got to light that up and just go, but that's an act of love to tell that guy, you've got to be somewhere else or you got to get your income up, because these things are not variables that are going to change. You're running into the law of gravity. You jump off a building, flap your arms, you're going to hit the sidewalk. Math is the law of gravity. You can't change it because of your emotions. It's still staring at you going, you got no money in your 401k because you've been buying crap you can't afford.
You mentioned that, every year, over the last 30 years, there's always something to worry about, always something to be concerned about, always something to be nervous about, always something that's frightening out there. When you think about looking over the next 30 years and you think about the future for your grandchildren and for their children and that, are there things that get you excited? Are there things that you're seeing that are changing, at least as it relates to building wealth and personal finance, where you say, you know what, this is what, if I had to attack the world today, this is the way that I would do it. I'd go figure out how to be a programmer. Or I'd get into real estate. Or are there things that you say, I've seen this story before. I know this movie. Here's what I'd recommend to do moving forward to build wealth.
I'm the opposite of pessimistic about the world we live in today. There's problems today that are different and big, but there's more stuff to do that's different and big. Yeah. I mean, you can, when I started, it was a big deal to buy a personal computer, and now you can log on your phone and start a business in 26 seconds. And you just suddenly, I am now on Etsy. I'm now on eBay. The number of people that call us that are doing side hustles where they're just doing some kind of buying old golf clubs, the old eBay story, right? And fixing them up and selling them,
Love it.
In the old days, we used to have to put an ad in the section of the newspaper back when we had these things called newspapers, and they had ads in them, and they were classified ads, and then people had to come to your garage. No, man, they just ding, 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 ding. And all of a sudden, you can start a business and make so much money right now, so much easier. The barrier of entry to making money and building a career, and if you don't like it, changing it is, oh, God, it's an exciting time. I mean, the stuff, and it's not, the speed of that is good.
Yeah.
And yet the speed of the problems are there. And so but it comes back to, I'm not going to adopt a victim mentality. I'm going to control my future destiny. And it comes back to this belief that the guy in my mirror is the problem and the solution. And he can do it. She can do it. And man, that's called hope. And it works. And my grandkids, man, I envy them. I wish I was going to be around to get to play in the sandboxes they're going to play in.
That's awesome.
It's going to be fast.
I think it's interesting because you're hitting on something really powerful, Dave, and the fact that we've already talked about the Millionaire Next Door. We've talked about y'all's own wealth survey. We have our own survey. Optimism is the key. I mean, it is like, it's not even close. I mean, it is 87 to 90% of successful people share that same optimistic mentality. And we talk about, the law of accelerating returns and the fact that when I was a kid of the 70s, I was the remote control, meaning that the reason beanbags were so popular in the 70s is because you put your rug rat on the beanbag. The big toe was doing UHF and VHF. And now think about where we are, where we have a problem where young people don't even watch TV programming because they have so much power with mobile technology. I think what happens in the next 10 years will eclipse even what happened over the last 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it should be so exciting to think about investing. And I think this is a big thing because it goes back to mindset. Y'all started this, and I love bringing everything Seinfeld-esque full circle in the fact that everybody thinks, I think there's a whole group of people, I shouldn't say everybody, there's a small group of people that are not successful that think that somebody has to lose for somebody else to gain. Oh, yeah. And I say that the pizza pie is ever expanding. That's the part of law of accelerating returns. It's really an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah. And what our friend Rabbi Lappin says, it's not even a pie.
Yeah.
That it's candles. Yeah. When you light your candle with somebody else's candle, like the Christmas Eve service, and when it goes all the way around there, I've still got mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And money really does work that way. That's why they call it currency. It flows. It's not a fixed thing. And so this idea that the little man can't get ahead, that is less true today than it's ever been in the history of man.
Yeah.
I mean, the little man has a better shot at this moment than any time, literally in the history of the human freaking race. At this moment, you've got a better shot. And, a couple of numbers you threw out there that, the 79% of our people that we surveyed inherited zero. Mm-hmm. But the other two numbers we found was that 5% inherited a super small amount, like $5,000.
Not life-changing.
That did not mathematically cause them to be a millionaire. You can't say that guy became a millionaire because of $5,000. That would be mathematically inaccurate to say that. Another 5% inherited money, substantial money, like $250,000 from their grandmother, after they were already millionaires.
It's just gravy at that
Yeah,
point.
and so really we put the 5, and the 79 together, and we get 89%
Wow.
of millionaires are not millionaires because of inherited money. That's the way you'd have to phrase it accurately, because they did get inherited money, one case after, and in one case it's a small amount. But so that tells me 9 out of 10. And so, man, I mean, but we all know compound interest. We all know when you do this stuff, it works. And people that want to shoot back and try to create a fight or something between us about 15% versus 25% or 20% savings, we say save a lot more than 15% once you get your house paid off. And the average person is paying off their house in 7 years doing our stuff, 7 to 8 years. And so, we're at 15% only for that period of time. And then after that, we're at more than that.
Right.
And so that's the only nuanced little difference. So whoopee, who gives a crap? Yeah. If you get people to go do this stuff, they win. I mean, John Wesley, the great pastor of the Great Awakening that caused one of the greatest outbreaks of the move of God in the early history, Methodism, right? He said, give 10, save 10, you'll always have money.
Yeah.
And you know what? You do that one, you'll be all right. But he argued with Dave. He doesn't agree with 15%. Oh, shut up. I mean, by God, if we get you to save money, we win. Everybody else is out there got some freaking theory and they're not doing anything. So you're causing people to win. We're causing people to win. Shut up. We're on the same team. Oh, my God.
And so you're causing people to win. You've been doing it for a long time. And what's amazing is Ramsey Solutions has reached this success point, right? You've done it. You've reached financial independence personally. You've changed millions of lives. You've sold tons of books. You've done all these things. What's the thing that keeps you guys still going? Like, what's the why that keeps you motivated every morning when you get out of bed to keep doing this and keep building and keep spreading the message?
And think about, we live in Williamson County. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know people in my small group who work for Ramsey Solutions. Neighbors.
Yep.
I mean, you're in the fabric. I mean, 1,100 employees. You probably have. That's just what I could find from researching it. I mean, just by itself is pretty fulfilling. But Bo's right. What keeps y'all going?
What caused you to get in it?
Well, what caused me to jump into this was when I went through financial peace, it was like a light bulb moment where I went, oh my gosh, how many other people don't know that they don't have to be a part of this broken financial system, that they can rise above it and win regardless of where they came from? Yep. And now we start to meet what we call financial peace babies, which means their parents went through financial peace. Their parents got a hold of this stuff. They taught it to their kids. Now, these kids are growing up and getting married, and they're 19 and they're 25, and they're coming to do their debt-free scream because they paid off their house.
It's like generational change. Legacy changing.
Family trees are changing, and that is one of the most inspirational pieces where you just have my face hurts from smiling when we get those kinds of debt-free screams. And I meet them at live events, and I go, our demographic is getting a whole lot younger. There's 16-year-olds here. What are these psychos doing? They're like, yeah, I'm going to college debt-free. Thanks. I went through the curriculum. My parents went through FPU. And so those are inspiring. On the other side, what's inspiring is that we have so much work to do. Dave always jokes that Jenny Craig and Dave Ramsey, they got plenty of work to do. The work will never run out. And so we get calls on the Ramsey show, and I go, oh my gosh, we still have so much work to do because everyone's still falling for crypto and buy now, pay later. They're falling for the marketing of these banks and these industries. And so it just riles me up because I want to be the David and Goliath when it comes to the financial industry and what we're doing here at Ramsey Solutions. To pull the veil off and go, guys, it doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to play the game of the credit score. Mm-hmm. You don't have to play the game of, can I move the 0% interest credit card and get the points so I can fly first class? Mm-hmm. No, you can live a life of peace with a debit card and a driver's license, and for Dave, a carry permit.
Dave, I do want to, because I want to make it more on you also in the fact that money's not the motivator anymore. I think that is past decades ago, probably for you. Is it the people? What's the why? What keeps you going? What's the driver right now?
Well, the reason that we started this whole thing was just a reaction to having gone broke. Yeah. And I hit the bottom. I went bankrupt, and I found a guy teaching what the Bible says about money: common sense, get out of debt, live on less than you make, have a budget, be generous, spread your portions to 7, yes to 8. Diversification, right? All this, it's all right there in the Bible. And so I thought, you know what? If I had My wife would have left during that time, but she didn't have a car. I mean, it's like, it's like, it was awful, y'all. It was harsh. And I remember those moments. They were 30 plus years ago. But when somebody calls on the air and I can hear it in their voice, I can hear their pauses. I know they're just in terror. And I remember that stuff. And so there's, was never about making money. We have to make money to be able to do the stuff we do around here. These studios and cost money. Those 1,100 people want to be paid and stuff like that. So we have to create and manage the revenue wisely at this place in order to have impact. But this has always been about impact. It's always been about Crusade. It's always been about ministry, and that never ends. It doesn't. There's no finish line when that's it. I was sitting with one of the radio guys years ago. Our show had taken off, and Dr. Laura was big in this, how long ago it was. And she had just sold her show to Premiere, to what is now iHeart, for $78 million. And our show was just a little bit smaller than hers, so we probably could have sold ours at that time. There's a lot of people buying. A lot of liquidity things out there. And, we're about 140 stations then, and we're about 680 now or something like that. And this consultant, we're sitting in L.A. at this radio event, and we're having lunch with this big guy, and he's like, so what's your end game? Meaning, when are you going to sell? When are you going to cash out? And I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that, because there's not a finish line in the way we do it. It's what Simon Sinek calls the infinite game versus the finite game.
Exactly going to say that.
And so, that's our why. That's my why. It's always been about the impact. It's always been about, I remember how it feels to have a truck run over you financially. And if I can get somebody out of the road, or I can pick them up after they get hit, either one, and love them and help them, that's a life well lived.
So we know what the last 30 years has looked like for Ramsey Solutions. What's the next 30 years? What's the next exciting thing coming down the pipe for Ramsey Solutions?
George Camel.
of many other things. So yeah,
no pressure, George. No pressure.
Dave woke up one day apparently and went, I guess I'm going to die one day. And this mission is too important for it to die with me, which we see happen a lot in the industry when you have a personality who built the thing. And so they decided years ago, hey, we need to diversify this and have more personality spreading the message. And now we've even expanded beyond money. Because if you ever heard The Ramsey Show, it's never just about money.
No.
Yeah. It's about relationships. It's about your career. It's about your mental health. It's about boundaries with family. And so I'm so excited about the next 30 because we have these amazing new personalities. Dr. John Deloney, Ken Coleman. Of course, we have Dave's daughter, Rachel Cruz, Christina Ellis. There's more being added every single year. What I love is there's a new energy to this place as we get fresh faces and young blood in here. I relate to an audience that Dave doesn't, and Dave relates to an audience that I wouldn't. And so I love that we can reach new audiences in new ways with the same principles, but different processes, different content, different platforms. Rachel and I just launched a new podcast called Smart Money Happy Hour. That's very different. It's real lighthearted. It's casual, conversational, entertaining. And we're seeing a whole new audience that wants money to not be stuffy. And they might not listen to the Ramsey Show.
We're stuffy?
No, I'm saying you're stuffy.
Sounds like you said you're stuffy, not Ramsey stuff.
Dave is the most entertaining out of all of us. This guy's got one-liners that he's developed over 30 years that I dream of. But it really does give me such hope when you sit in a staff meeting or devotionals, as we did this morning, with 1,100 people who are all running in the same direction with amazing leadership. I'm just honored and humbled every day I get to come in here and do this kind of work on this platform, which, we all can admit we stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us. All of us, and it's the honor of a lifetime to get to help people in this way.
I'll kind of close it out because I couldn't help but, Dave, you have your ability to kind of strike people and make them remember moments. I mean, we're financial advisors, and there are still financial advisors that remember when you kind of reminded them about the front porch, the big dog on the front porch, and all the other stuff. You have a way to entertain that's such a unique thing. But what I hope the takeaway, this is the big takeaway I want everybody who's watching this. What motivates you? What gets you excited to realize you too can build wealth, and you can build purposeful wealth? I'm talking about wealth that actually can change your direction, but also let you pay it forward. You can be generous with your life. You can be generous with your resources. This stuff, I don't care where you're from. No matter what the world's telling you, that this is a consumer world, this is a world that's working against you, that's all hogwash. You actually have the power to start today. I want you to think about all the easy things, whether it's baby steps, whether it's our financial order of operations. Just do something, because the time is going to move so much faster. We all hear the saying that the days are long, but the years are short. It's true. You're going to wake up one day and you're going to look back and go, where did the 10 years go? Where did the 20 years go? In all that period, the sooner you start, the easier it is. Just do something, get your life under control, get your mindset, take the hogwash out so you're not getting distracted, and you can do this and build it. So I want to thank you guys again for letting us come down, visit your studio. Y'all been nothing but nice. I mean, we've been offered so many coffees. The playlist down. I mean, if you think about it, we had Journey rocking. We had some Scorpions. I mean, I got everybody motivated because we wanted to make sure we gave you all the energy, and we had an absolute blast. So thank you so much.
We're honored, and thank you guys for what you're doing. We're proud of you. You're doing good work. You're helping people, and honored to be in the same space with you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
So, guys, I'm your host, Brian Preston, Bo Hansen, George, Dave. Feel like we could do this every week. Money Guy team, out.